a few videos about getting your papers published, I thought it might be sensible if I at least mentioned the concept of predatory publishing. Now, it's not just about predatory publishing I want to talk. Predatory publishing is about something you want to avoid, and that fits into a slightly larger topic of how to choose the journal that you want to publish in. And the best advice I ever got on that was read the journals. Read the journals that you think might be appropriate for you to publish in, and you'll better see whether the papers are like your paper, whether there are topics there that are related to the topic that you're writing about. You'll be able to see whether your paper would fit in well. So read the journals that you're thinking about targeting with your publishing to see how they fit, your paper will fit in. And of course, part of that is about exercising your judgment. If there's anything you're expected to show during the course of your postgraduate studies and your early career as a researcher, it's to show that you can exercise judgment. Go and have a look at the quality of the articles that are published in the journal, and if they're written by people who can't string two words together, you don't want your paper to stand alongside of them. Now, the problem you've got as a young researcher is that you are entering into a field at a time when we're in a stage of transition. When I was a postgraduate student, publishers published journals, and they got their money by selling those journals to individual readers, or more particularly to libraries. It was library subscriptions that really kept the academic publishing world going. And the problem with that was that you paid to read. The publishers were making their money out of charging readers to read their journals. Obviously, if you were in a good university with a large library with good access to journals, that was fine. You weren't paying personally, but it was a cost to the university. Now we're transitioning to a stage where we're looking for open access. With open access publishing, publishers make their journals available freely to readers. Anyone can read the research results. That's good and helpful for us, but they've got to get their money from somewhere. And where are they getting their money from? They're getting their money from authors. Now, this is a system that is designed for people who are in research projects, who are making bids for research funding, and in that research funding they will include the cost of getting their results published. Though that will just be another line in the budget of a research project. For people like you and me, people like me who are retired, and people like you who are early career researchers, it's not so easy. We're not part of that system. We may be very lucky. We may be very lucky and be part of a university that has a deal with one of the big publishers. And some of the publishers have deals that universities buy in. If they buy a certain number of the journals of the publisher, they get special deals on the publishing rates for authors. But you need to be thinking about how you can fund your publication in the age of open access. The big reputable publishers very often have two standards of open access. On the one hand, they have a gold standard. Anything that's published is open access immediately, and normally for that they are charging a publication fee. Or they have a second class standard of open access, green open access, where they say, okay, we'll make our money out of the first 2 years. We'll keep your work behind a paywall for 2 years, but then after 2 years or some similar time period, it will be free and open access. So you get the benefit as an author of open access, but you don't actually have to pay for it. The publishers are making their money in the first 2 years when they're keeping your work behind a paywall. And most large, reputable journals will have an arrangement, something like that, which will allow you to go for either full open access or partial open access at no cost. So these are the options that are facing us. I personally try to avoid journals that are charging publication fees, not just because I don't have any money, but because I think I'm making my contribution by giving the ideas and writing the papers in the first place. I shouldn't have to pay twice. Well, that's by way of context. The problem is that move towards open access has opened a window for people who are unscrupulous, who are not really in the publishing business. They are interested in making money out of charging poor young researchers publication fees, and these people we call predatory publishers. That's difficult to identify them because, well, it's a changing landscape. Some of the people who you would have called predatory publishers 10, 15 years ago, today are perfectly respectable publishers. It does take, it's not a fixed field. About 20 years ago, there was a librarian who kept a list, an online list of predatory publishers, but he had to stop doing that because many of the people who he thought were predatory publishers were also extremely litigious. So we've not got any real help for this. We have to look out for predatory publishers ourselves. So the first thing to think about is, what kind of business are they in? Well, they're interested in your money for publishing your work open access online. And what that basic level will mean that they are going to get 50 articles a month, put them online and charge $100, $200 to do that. And all they're doing is just managing a website, putting the papers online and charging you for publishing. That's a good business. I mean, we could do a good business this way, 50 papers a month at $200 a month. There's a lot of money to be made here over and above. You don't want to be stuck with that because they're not doing anything other than just sticking them online. Now, a good, reputable publisher is doing more for you than just making your work publicly available. If there is somebody infringes your copyright, infringes your rights as an author, a good, reputable publisher will be there to help you sort out the legal mess. A good, reputable publisher will have a legal department, will have a complaints department, will have resources that are available to make sure that their authors are well looked after. And in addition to that, they will be doing promotional work. They will be bringing your work to the attention of a likely audience whenever they can. They'll be going to appropriate conferences, promoting the journals that you're contributing to. So a predatory publisher is simply interested in taking your money without providing the service. And a good publisher is they're making money, but they're also providing you with some services. So how do you spot a predatory publisher? Well, the first thing to think about is if they send you an email soliciting contributions, they are probably not a very reputable publisher. So that's the first thing to watch out for. Email soliciting submissions is a giveaway. Still, you may want to check them out, you may want to go and have a look at their website. No harm in doing that, but be wary. Start to be wary at that point. The second thing to look for carefully is if they are, go to their website, have a look for them, have a look at some of the issues of the journal, have a look at whether this is work that you would like your work to be seen alongside. If they promise you a very rapid turnaround in the peer review process, and I've seen some websites that claim to do peer review within days, if they're promising that, they're probably not genuinely engaging with the peer review process, which I explored in some detail in another video. So if they're promising a very short time to the decision to publish, that's another bad sign. They're probably not taking the peer review process seriously, and the peer review process does guarantee and underwrite the quality of your work. It gives you that opportunity, as I've said to you before, to improve your work. The peer review process is adding something to your work, but there is a cost to it. And the publishers have every right to make sure that they're getting some cover, that cost of doing the peer review process is covered. So go and have a look at the website. And if the website is brightly coloured or gaudy, if it has a lot of typing errors, if it's making all sorts of claims that look unreasonable, then again, that should be a sign that you're looking at a predatory publisher. Have a look through to see what the publication processing charges are. If they're difficult to find, that's another sign that you're looking at a predatory publisher. Have a look at the numbers of the journals. It takes years to establish a journal, so it doesn't always mean just because the journal is at number 1 or number 3 doesn't necessarily mean that the journal is a predatory operation. But if it's a low number, it's a warning sign that you need to have a close look at the journal itself to make sure that you're satisfied with the quality of the journal. Have a look at the editorial board. An editorial board with a cast of hundreds is deeply suspicious. An editorial board that has hundreds of members can't possibly be functioning properly. So what's it doing there except an effort to hoodwink you into believing this is an important operation? Have a look at the names of the people on the editorial board. If there's nobody you've ever heard of in your looking at the literature in the field, that's another red flag. It's another sign you may be looking at a journal that you would not want to publish in. There may well be a lot of well-meaning early career researchers who've been fooled into putting their names forward. If there's a lot of PhD candidates, early career researchers who are in not very prominent universities, and there's an awful lot of them, be suspicious. Be suspicious of an editorial board that doesn't have at least a few names that you might have heard of in doing your literature searches in your topic area. If the website is claiming that the journal is cited in a number of indices, well, that's worth having a look at. But bear in mind, if they're claiming that, for example, the journal is indexed on Google Scholar, well, that's no kind of recommendation at all. Anything can be on Google Scholar, and most things are. So you're looking for, if they're quality indexes, if they're SSCI indexed or whatever the national standard is that your institution thinks is a measure of quality, look out for that too. So there's a number of giveaway signs that the publisher is a predatory publisher. Be suspicious of names that sound familiar, but not quite the same as the leading journals in your field. Be slightly suspicious of that. And be very suspicious if the journal says that they have a very wide breadth of topics. If they'll take everything from cookery to zoology, then probably they're not a serious journal. Have they got an appropriate focus that says this is a specialist journal in your particular field? So be careful, watch out for those signs that you might be dealing with a publisher that's of no interest to you. It's actually worse than of no interest to you. If you put on your CV, I've got a publication in a journal that is not high quality. If you put in your CV that you have a publication that's clearly in among papers that are of no quality, you're making a statement about your judgment. So if you claim to have a paper in a journal, and when the person who's thinking of employing you looks it up, they discover it's a journal that is published by a predatory publisher, that will detract from your paper. It may be an excellent paper. You may have written the most earth-shattering paper and it be published by a predatory publisher, but your judgment is called into question by you having placed such a good paper with such a bad publisher. You must be careful about that. So the overall point is, read the journals that you're going to try and publish in. Find out about the journals. How long have they been established? How highly regarded are they in the field? Do people reference the articles that are in them? Don't simply go for the first journal that you look at. Read 2 or 3 issues of the journal, find out what their topics are, and try to avoid publications that are simply after your money and are not doing anything apart from having a rather overreaching website that will attract your attention. Go for quality rather than simply getting published at any cost. That's really elaborating on the advice. The best advice I ever got, as I said to you, to decide which journals you're going to publish in, go and have a look at the journals. Read the journals for yourself and form a judgment. But in forming that judgment, bear in mind there are these pitfalls that will catch the unwary.